Are y'all ready to start?
Can I ask Jennifer one question before you do?
Sure.
Jennifer, any update on Bobby?
She's doing okay. She's doing okay. She got her second shot, so had a little bit of reaction, but she's doing okay. Thanks for asking.
We'll keep sending her cards.
Please do.
Tell the big boy behind you I said hello.
Oh, okay. I think he can hear you.
Hey there.
Hi, Greg. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Ready?
If you are, yes.
Okay, we bring the meeting to order, and if you would call the roll in that, to be sure. And we'll go from there.
All right. Charles Alexander.
Here.
Mary Jane Campbell. Brad Finch. Rick Fox.
Here.
Turner Goff. Jennifer Moats.
Here.
Prentice Oldham.
Here.
Okay. And Russ Edwards.
Here.
And myself. All let's see. Brad and Turner are the only two absent.
Okay. Okay. First thing we need is approval of the motion to approve the minutes for December the 3rd of 2020 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and with a second. Would you call a roll in it, please?
I will. And Rick, were you the second on that? I heard
Yes.
two voices. Okay. All right. Charles Alexander.
Aye.
Mary Jane Campbell.
Aye. Here.
That's fine. Sure.
Okay. Make sure Brad's not here. Brad Finch. Rick Fox.
Aye.
Turner. Jennifer Moats.
Aye.
Prentice Oldham.
Aye.
Okay, it's passed unanimously.
Okay.
Excuse me, not unanimously, by majority.
Okay, first thing on the agenda is electing a chairman and vice chairman. So, floor is open for nominations.
I think we ought to stick with the two we have. They seem to do pretty well. As long as you don't get locked out of your truck again, Prentice, you're okay.
Well, I won't try my best to not do that. Well,
Hey,
I don't know whether we're ever going to have a meeting at City Hall again or not.
Your Uber driver's in good shape. You're okay.
I'll second that.
Do I have a second on that?
Yes.
Okay, call the roll in it, please.
All right. Charles Alexander.
Aye.
Mary Jane Campbell.
Aye.
Rick Fox.
Aye.
Jennifer Moats.
Aye.
And Prentice Oldham.
I'll vote for myself and Brad, so aye.
Okay. All right. So that's unanimous actually of all that are present. So that
Okay.
motion carried. Mhm.
Okay, then we up for discussions next. I guess that's the only thing we got on we don't have anything to add, do we?
Oh, hang on just a second. No, to answer that question, but I apologize. Did you make the motion to keep both the same, Rick? Is that
Yes.
how you wanted to word that?
Yeah, that's fine, Annette.
Chairman and vice chairman.
That sounds fine to me.
Charles, you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So yes, discussion is next.
Okay.
So,
Do you want me to go ahead, Prentice?
yes, please.
Okay. Is Andy Gilly, you on? I see your.
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Okay. What I'm going to do, I'm going to share screen with this. Well, it's not coming up. Hang on one second. Let's. Well, this is not. Oh, here it is. Okay. Can everybody see this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, this was brought to my attention, and I've made an attempt once again to change this special occasions beer permit. This is kind of this ordinance is kind of a work in progress. I think this may be the third time we've changed it since at least I've been on. But what I've done is what I've added is in red, and then what I've removed is crossed out. And obviously the black is there from the previous ordinance. Okay, let's go over the first one that I've added, which is adding that an entity can pull a special occasion permit, and it would not be limited to a 501c3 charitable organization. And what we put in here is an entity that can meet the minimum requirements for insurance. And I know Director Gilly, this would help with the parks because there are some events that are coming up, and some of the people that want to put on the events of having trouble trying to get a 501c3 charitable organization on board with pulling the permit. This would allow an entity, a private entity, to do that. It would obviously be subject to the approval of the beer board, and if it's in the parks, it would obviously have to go through the parks board as well. So maybe Director Gilly might have some more insight into that as to why that would be beneficial for the city to try to help this process along, because obviously we don't want to lose out on any events, any potential revenue and events that may take place in a park.
You want me? Would you like me to speak, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman?
if you want.
Alderman Edwards. Is that okay? Go ahead.
Sure.
I would just add to that we're starting to have, as we grow and we get a reputation for being able to host bigger and better things around here, events. What I would say is, I like the idea of having the nonprofits involved in the permit pulling. However, I also like the idea better of having people that do that for a living pull the permit and have the proper insurance all the time and know that they're going to take on all the liability instead of putting that back on our local charities. But I like the way this is written because it does benefit the local charities, but it puts all of the liability for selling and insurance and pulling the permits on the people that actually do that stuff for a living on a daily basis. I don't know if I can add to it more than that. I mean, it like Alderman Edwards said, the way this is written, anything that's still happening in the parks would have to come before this board and the Parks Board for approval.
Yes, I appreciate that insight, and we've put in here, I've proposed to put in here, and we're obviously open to suggestions, is that at least 20% of all gross beer sales during each event must be donated to a charitable organization, and that how much is being donated must be disclosed to the beer board and or the parks board if it's in a park. So that, and usually they do that if you have the local beer company half batch that is selling beer. Usually I believe they give 20% back. If there's a beer is $5, I believe they give $1, so it would be 20% gross sales to a charity. So at least even if it's pulled by a private entity, they're giving back to a local charity. It can't be to some, United Way of the United States. It would have to be a local charity. So that's the first proposed change. And
Hey, Russ, can I just ask a question on what you just said?
yeah.
It says here, a bona fide 503 charitable organization. I don't see where it says a local one, though.
Okay, you're right. I can add, you're right, it doesn't. I can add to a local bona fide 501c3.
Oh, Alderman Edwards, if I can help you out on that, and Mr. Fox. If I remember when we discussed this, your intent was like we wanted to make sure, even if the 501c3 might have been located in Nashville, there's some that serve people in Hendersonville. So that, I don't know how stringent you want to go with the language there, but
Andy, could we just say must be donated to a bona fide 501c3 charitable organization that serves Hendersonville?
sounds like a question for Alderman Edwards.
Yeah, I'd be happy to add that language. I think that's a good idea because some, like, for instance, the Salvas Center is located in Gallatin, but they provide services for people in Hendersonville. So we can put that services.
It services Hendersonville,
Yeah, we can just do that.
right at the end of that sentence. Andy, does that work for you?
I think that was the intent that when we discussed this with Mr. Bradley earlier. Yes, sir.
And so really that's the first one. The second one is, now there has been some confusion on this ordinance. What the intent was and it should be clarified is that if someone pulls a permit, a special occasion permit, that permit is good for 12 months. It's good for 1 year, and they can use it up to 12 times. I just think it's inefficient, and maybe Annette can speak to this, for the people like for example, Rock Castle having to get a permit for every single event. I believe that they should just be given a permit, kind of like a restaurant is given a beer permit, and they just have it. They post it. They have it. They keep it on the premises, and they should not. And we ran into this last fall when Rock Castle had to move one of their events. I just think it's more efficient if they just get the permit. The beer board can approve, and if it's in a park, get the Parks Board to approve of having a permit for a year. And all they have to do is provide the dates of when they want to have their events 30 days in advance of the event. And I added the language, or as soon as practical, if in the event of a change of the event date. That way, like if Rock Castle comes next month to get a permit, they don't have to go ahead and designate what events they're going to have for the entire year. They can just get the permit and decide it, because right now they don't know exactly when everything is going to open up and they can have their events. And we had in there 45 days, but like we saw last fall, they had Rock Castle, an event rained out and they just had to move it to the next week. So if we do it this way, the city, the finance department, will have record of, if they give 30 days advance notice, they give it, and I've proposed in here to give it to the beer board of when they're going to do it, so everybody knows when they're going to have their events, and it's recorded, so they can't have more than 12 events. And so at least it's on record. And I've proposed to remove the language that the permit holder will need to pick it up in advance of the event, because, and Annette can speak to this, once they get their permits, I believe they could just be given that permit that night and they can just have it and hold it. So I'd like to know what others' thoughts on this are.
Well, in full disclosure, the rest of the board, Russ and I have talked about this a little bit. I guess, Russ, I certainly understand why you want to take out for each event, but I don't see any wording in here, and I may be missing it, but I don't see any wording anywhere in this section that says either the holder or their designated representative has to pick up the permit and display it anytime.
We can put that in there, that they will.
I absolutely agree with you, Russ. I don't think that if we're going to give it to them for 12 events for the year, they shouldn't have to come 12 times and get it. I'm fine with that. But I think for our own protection, the park's protection, and frankly, the protection of the vendor, it ought to be a requirement that they pick it up and have to display it at the event.
Well, how would we, I don't know how they can display it. Sometimes that may be difficult if, say, it's an outdoor event.
Okay.
At Rock Castle, what if they must at least have it on them?
Fine. That's what I mean, is have it at the premises.
So who will be the designated person?
I guess we could put the permit holder the permit holder must have and display must have on the premises, the permit for during each event. I guess we could designate.
I think if you can add that, Russ, that certainly deals with what you and I talked about and what my concern was.
Okay.
Annette, does that cause you a problem?
No, it doesn't. I think it'll kind of streamline things as far as our office goes in preparing them. And we'll just have to rely on the permit holders that pull these. And there are a few that have multiple events. We'll just have to rely on them calling us and letting us know, and we'll just emphasize that, and that has been reworded in this ordinance. I'll probably, if this passes if it passes BOMA on both readings, I may send this out to, I think I should send this out to our vendors or our nonprofits, especially, to let them know that has changed, or been updated. And then once the municipal code is updated, whomever fills out an application gets a copy of this as well, all the beer laws. So it will be right there before them to see all
Well,
that.
and Annette, I don't remember an occasion when we've approved a permit where after the vote, you haven't told the applicant, now you can come to City Hall tomorrow and pick this permit up from me. I mean, you've been very diligent about reminding them that they need to do that.
I've tried. Yeah. So I think this will eliminate the chance of people not picking them up by having the multiples like we did last year. I think that will take care of that. And it's just, like I said, it'll just fall on them to let us know their dates and events as they happen, which the ones that have multiple events, they can kind of be able to give us an idea, like Rock Castle. We keep using that example, but they kind of have an idea of what they're going to do each year. So, and we'll just emphasize to them that they need to let us know.
I have a question on the first part we talked about. Is Andy still on? Andy Gilly?
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Andy, it's Jen.
Hey there.
Hey, can you give me an example? I mean, it doesn't have to be of like what you mean by what's happening in the parks that you kind of feel like you're turning people away. Like which organization?
We haven't had to turn anybody away yet, but I'll give you an example. The Blue Otter fishing tournament that I don't know, you all hadn't heard about that yet. The Parks Board approved.
Okay.
So they're
Bass Pro Shops one, right?
No, that's two different things. This is the Blue Otter is one coming up in the end of May. And they do these kind of fishing tournament and concert events in different areas all over the country all the time. And they're fine with getting with the 501c3, but they actually are all in one. They sell the beer, they put on the concert, they put on the tournament. There's other people. I'll give you an example. Half Batch is an example. And Nate, I'm sure, would love to have some kind of Oktoberfest at Sanders Ferry Park. And I'm sure he would love to partner with a charity to give him money and let people benefit off of it. But I would feel more comfortable with Nate handling all that and pulling all the permits and being responsible for it insurance-wise than I am with having to go chase down Holiday Fest or the Junior Service League or people that don't do that for a living and may or may not have the proper insurance.
Which is why, Andy, it makes sense for him to do it because he does do it for a living and he knows that stuff.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes,
One
ma'am.
other question. How are we checking after the event has occurred? What mechanism will be to prove that they gave 20% to a charity? Who's going to be the keeper of all that?
Well, I'll tell you how we do it with tournaments and such.
Okay.
Our special event coordinator. Let me back up a little bit. If we have a guy from St. Louis come in and run a baseball tournament in the park, one of the requirements is they partner with a nonprofit so that group can benefit off the ticket gate or off entry fees or whatever, because they'll invest back in our park or in the city. So we follow up with that through our office to make sure that is being taken care of. There's nothing official. We don't make them send us a copy of the check, but we work with the civic group because we know who it is going in that's partnered with them, and we know they've got to pay us an invoice to rent the facility, and we got to follow up with them to make sure the charity was taken care of.
Okay. What about, just out of curiosity, what happens if an entity wants to use, I don't know, Indian Lake Elementary, their field or something? I mean, I guess, if it's not the parks, go ahead.
Well, that's Sumner County Schools. I mean, that's a whole different animal.
Okay, I'm sorry, wrong example, but I'm thinking, what if it's not just the parks? Because the Rock
Well, you're talking
Castle-
about Rock Castle, and that's not a city park. So
Right. So that's my question. How are we handling that as the beer board, or even the park that's around the corner, the Beatty Farm? Have they determined
the Beatty Farm is a city
the
park.
parks? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So this is all just for the parks and the beer board. Is that what I'm understanding?
If you're asking me, I'd have to defer to Alderman. The way it's written, I'm not an expert on that language.
Okay, so are you asking, so what was your question? So are you asking?
Just the parks and the beer board. So in other words, these people are renting a facility that the city parks own, and they want to have a beer permit. This is not anything, any place else.
Oh, wait, no, it could be outside of a park. For example, Monhaven, I guess if they want to serve beer, and Rock Castle was not a park. Rock Castle was not a city park. So
Right.
it's a state park. So it's anywhere in the city if they want to sell, if they don't otherwise have a beer permit, such as a restaurant or Half Batch has a manufacturer's license. If they want to sell beer on a special occasion anywhere within the city, they have to come and get a permit. And if it happens to be in a park, they also have to go to the Parks Board.
Okay.
So like if Monhaven wants to have an event, they have, and I don't know how often, I don't know if they've come before the beer board. If they want to sell beer, I guess it would just be selling beer at one of their events. They would have to come before us, and they would just have a permit for a year, and be able to do that for 12 times. Be able to have 12 events.
Now, I thought the whole deal with that is that we would do the 12 events as long as the 501c3 and the organization were the same, the beer company, like Half Batch Brewery and Rock Castle. Right. That they were the same things all 12 times. Is that still the way we're rolling with this, or?
Yes, because if you look, and I'm going to highlight this, here's what it says here in the language that is not being changed. The applicant must provide the name of the vendor that will be supplying the beer and the venues where the events will take place upon obtaining the special occasion beer permit. And it goes on to say, should the vendor or venue change, they must come back before the beer board for approval. So yes, if they say we're only going to use Half Batch and everything's going to take place at Rock Castle, if Half Batch, if they change vendors or venues, they have to come back in front of the beer board.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure that we hadn't changed any of that. Okay.
So Russ, this applies to any and all special occasion within the city. There's just extra quote unquote hoops they have to go through if it's in a city park.
Correct. And that's how it has been. That's how it was changed before, where they have to go to the Parks Board if it's in a park.
Just making sure I understood. Thank you.
Yeah, and the primary change is having any kind of private entity. And we met with the city attorney, Andy and Annette, and the city attorney and I met, and he he said it's fine to do that. There wouldn't be any kind of he doesn't foresee any legal ramifications to opening it up to private entities to obtain the permit. And if it's an organization or an entity that the beer board is not comfortable with giving a permit to, all they have to do is deny the permit.
Ms. Moats, I understand what you're asking too, that as far as follow up. My whole thing about that would be, I have a feeling if Hazel Path has partnered with somebody, or Monthaven has, or Holiday Fest has, or Hazel, or I don't know what I'm trying to say, other 501c3s, they're going to be following up on that just as much as the venues are, to make sure that money gets taken. In the park, we have a rule: if the tournament or whoever vendor doesn't take care of their business, they're not allowed to come back unless that's settled. They would not be permitted to have any other events.
And did you have a time frame that they have to distribute the money by? Like, is it within 30 days, 90 days? Oops.
We kind of leave that up to the individual people that kind of work together on that. It's kind of tricky sometimes with tournaments. The longest that I know of that we've ever been is 6 months before somebody actually got their stuff in, but it's never been an issue. I'm not sure with park events, I'm not sure I'm ready to put an actual time on it right this minute.
No, I wasn't asking. I figured you guys had that covered with the parks. I was wondering about all the other ones that the parks are involved in. What that time frame, because I'm just, I guess for me, it's more of it needs to be distributed by the end of the year. But, I don't know. I just felt that's a lot of paperwork, and I'm wondering who's going to handle that. Is that, who at the city is going to handle the follow up on all of this for the.
I mean, I can't speak for events at Rock Castle or other non-city venues, but I know I'm comfortable with our staff following up on it easily. A lot of that has to do with reputable vendors too.
Correct. Now, Annette, would that fall to you?
I believe so. Sherry or myself. Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure you guys are okay with that before we dump that on you.
I would also think that if this were a requirement, and let's say it's Rockcastle or whomever, they may not have an authority, but I would think they'd be knocking on the door and ringing the bell pretty loud if the vendor didn't pay them the 20%.
Yeah.
So you want the motion on this, Russ?
Yeah, if y'all want to approve of it with the language that we spoke about, that the charities that service Hendersonville, and the next change is the permit holder must have the permit on the premises during each event. With those changes, if y'all want to make a motion to approve of it, then I can take it forward to BOMA and say that I would like to go forward to BOMA and say that we had approval from the beer board.
Are you making a motion on that, Charles?
Yes, I'll go ahead and make the motion.
Okay, I will second it.
So the motion is we're going to approve this with the 2 changes that Russ just highlighted, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Thank you.
All in favor? Annette, would you call the roll, please?
I will. Charles Alexander,
Aye.
Mary Jane Campbell,
Aye.
Rick Fox,
Aye.
Jennifer Moats,
Aye.
Prentice Oldham,
Aye.
and just to make sure, has Brad joined us? Or Turner? Okay, motion passed.
Okay. Do you have anything else, Russ? Or is that all you got?
That's all I have.
Does anyone have anything else?
Mm.
You have anything, Annette?
I do not. I'm good.
Okay, I guess we're ready to adjourn. We have a motion for adjournment.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Call the roll.
Okay.
Please.
Got to get a second for that.
I'll
You don't
second.
have to have a second. But I'll second it in case you want a second.
Okay. All right.
Didn't take long to get that motion, did it?
No.
No,
Okay. Charles Alexander,
Aye.
Mary Jane Campbell,
Aye.
Rick Fox,
Aye.
Aye.
Jennifer Moats,
Aye.
and Prentice Oldham.
aye.
All right. We are adjourned. Motion passed.
Thank you all for your
Everyone,
work.
have a good evening.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Thank you all very much.
Stay safe.
Take care.
All right.
Did you lock them doors? All right. Yeah. You was watching the news or something. You was talking over everybody else. TV was.
I've been watching the news. I wasn't even in there.
Well, okay. That's the reason it's so loud then, I guess. Why don't you put it on?
There are 4 of them, which is a nice way to start.
Excuse me.
What did you all do?
Huh?
What did you all do?
We elected chairman and a co-chairman and,
Oh, you all
Vice
had a
chairman.
meeting?
huh?
Y'all had a meeting tonight?
Yeah.
Oh. Who
And-
got the chairman and co-chairman?
And just like it was,
Oh, shoot. Why don't you get out of that stuff?
I am when this term's over.
Oh, yeah.
When my 2 years is up, I won't be able to.
2 years?
22.
Lord have mercy.
Huh.
Well, I won't be around at 22.
710. There are 3 ends, yeah.
I'd have let it rip tonight.
What?
I said I'd have let it rip tonight,
But what rip?
Yes, 2 8.
chairman.
Oh,
I got off the beer board tonight.
E. 2 E. $600. F. Yes, 2 F's. $2,800. Like us all.
Friendly.
Friendly flight attendant.
Mhm.
Worth $2,800, which are right in the page. We're just getting started here. We'll deal. We got lots more to give away, and we'll get to it.
I wish my face was smooth like his is.
who?
Don't matter. Well, we had that. Look at that, that one right here. See that?